Today I woke up trying to think about what inspires me to practice, or who inspires me to practice. And I thought about my community, I thought about my teachers. And I think one of the things that inspires me is to see people in the world under very, very difficult, incredible conditions doing really remarkable things. It puts my difficulties in perspective, and it really kind of, it inspires me to just never give up on myself and to never give up on anybody. And so I was going through, we get Time magazine here, and most of it's pop culture and stuff that doesn't really matter as far as I'm concerned. But their latest issue is about the 100 most influential people in the world. And one of the things that, so I went through it, and I found two women in their 100 people that their main focus is education. And that one of them is in Nigeria and one of them is in New Orleans. And the first one, Obiageli Ezekawezili, used to work for she was in the Nigerian government as their Department of Education. And last year, when we do all of our dedications in the meditation hall, we had dedications for a number of weeks for 148 young schoolgirls who had been kidnapped by Boko Haram in Nigeria. And later on, we found out that they had taken them somewhere and had married them off to soldiers. And so Obiageli took this as one of her main passionate causes. It's been almost a year this May since the girls have been kidnapped. They have not been seen. And since then, boys have been burned alive in their dorms. There have been over 60 other young boys killed. There have been 200 women kidnapped in Syria and given to jihadi fighters. And what she's dealing with is that Boko Haram, which means the translation of it is Western education is sinful. Their main thrust is to totally destroy and to turn Nigeria into an Islamic state. Their perverted, diluted version of that is which everybody has no freedom. All the girls are uneducated. They're married off at an early age, basically an oppressive society. And so what Nigeria has been trying to do is that in most of these rural African countries, from what I've read and getting a sense of, even when Larissa was talking the other day about Ethiopia, is that a lot of the children, because the families are so far out in the rural countries, that they come to these schools and they live there. They get fed, they wear uniforms, they're educated. They get, taken care of, they have housing, and then I think they go and visit their families over certain holidays and such. So all over Africa, there are these schools where these children live in community. And so that's why this is such a horror, because Boko Haram just went into the school in the middle of the wee hours of the morning, rounded up 300 of these girls at gunpoint, and took them away. So they've been killing, they've been torturing these schools, they've been burning these children alive. And so she has made this one of her missions. And she's running up against a lot of, the political machine that says that this was just some sort of ploy of Boko Haram to oust at the time, the president, who totally ignored this for weeks before he even admitted that the girls had been kidnapped. So Obiageli is become the mouthpiece for this, and even though it's been a year and they haven't found them, the women of Nigeria have really taken to the streets about this. It's become a real cyber political movement, and they now have, the president was thrown out. There's now a new one who used to be a dictator in the country. He's promised to, work things out. We'll see. But her passion and her fearlessness under death threats and political intrigue and stuff, she just simply isn't going to let this go away. And so I wanted to just sort of rejoice in her presence in Nigeria, and that there are 3 other women that are also part of this, and it's called Bring Back Our Girls movement. And that there are 3 other women who have been in child rights advocates. One is into anti-corruption campaigns that try to keep, there's so much political corruption in most world governments. And then one who's trying to fight against child marriage. anti-violence legislation. So there's this four group of women with her as sort of the lead, and that they're really trying to work on this violent situation that's going on, not just in Nigeria, but it's going on in Sudan, it's going in Syria. I mean, the Boko Haram have now pledged their allegiance to ISIS. So now they've been taken over. They're under the umbrella of ISIS. So I want to rejoice in her incredible passion, her fearlessness, her outspokenness to try to really bring back the girls, and at least to bring it to the world's attention. And the momentum is picking up. The president has promised to do something about this. We'll see what happens. So we want to make prayers for her and for this Bring Back the Girls movement. The second woman that was in Time magazine, her name is Kira Orange Jones. And this year is the 10th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, which totally decimated New Orleans. And she has brought, there's an organization, it's called Teach for America. She's the executive director, and she has totally reinvented the school system in New Orleans. It's all charter schools, so the public system and the charter schools have totally interfaced. And she's doing amazing things. She is doing absolutely amazing things. The public charter model has been, since it was started in 2005, the graduation rate has gone from 50% to 75%. The number going to college has more than doubled. And New Orleans outperforms most cities like Chicago, Denver, Miami, and so forth. But what I want to share is some of her vision about educating children, particularly educating children in poverty. And it's one of those things that we talk about in the Dharma, is that once something gets labeled, like a child in poverty will never excel academically, and then they get put into this box, lack of funding, they don't have the capacity, they don't have the abilities, they don't have the circumstances. And so our whole line of children in our poverty situation all across the world get sort of pigeonholed into this, and then of course the cycle reinforces and creates that paradigm. So here's what she has said. One of the biggest challenges we face as a country in public education is the low expectations adults hold for our kids, particularly children growing up in poverty. If people who influence the lives of children don't fundamentally believe that children growing up in poverty can achieve at the same or greater level as children growing up in affluent neighborhoods, and instead believe that there are significant limitations to what can be done in education to ensure all children achieve at high levels, then systems and people get stuck. That is the crux of so many policy debates I have found myself in. As a fourth grade teacher a decade ago, I remember being told by many people that all children really can't achieve a high level, given where some kids get started. Yet everything I have experienced with my own students flew in the face of this type of conventional thinking. Many of my students have very real challenges in their lives, yet daily they overcame significant obstacles to exceed the expectations society often places on children who share their backgrounds. Now, more than a decade after I began teaching, I still sit in meetings and hear from people who fight policies that are in the best interest of children growing up in poverty, because those policies compromise the interests of adults. For example, I support policies that expand educational options for children and families so kids won't be stuck in schools that don't serve them very well. When you hear in that debate, what you hear in that debate is a fierce preservation of the way things have been done for decades, even if what has been done hasn't worked. Part of that is fear of change, that's just human nature. But another part is an implicit belief that the fundamental goal that all children achieve at high levels is misdirected or impossible. One way to challenge that belief is by cultivating school and system examples that change the conversation. In New Orleans, schools like Psi Academy send 90% of their first graduating class to college with millions of dollars in scholarships that generates a vital discourse around what children in this city and country are capable of. So she goes on to say that children deserve just to be given all the achievements, and children that are in poverty, they are no exception. If you give them the circumstances, if you give them the support, that they many times even excel those children that are more in affluent neighborhoods. So I just wanted to, I guess, rejoice and acknowledge Kira and Obajeli's lifelong passion to really educate the world about the power of education, to empower people, because we know that when a society is educated, the possibilities of, well, hopefully, because America somewhat disproves this, that the possibility of corruption, of oppression, of disparity in gender, disparity in economics, in opportunities, can be at least challenged. It may not be able to be totally disbanded, but it can certainly be challenged. And so, and I know that the Abbey, I mean, Venerable's an incredible proponent of education. Any type of tax bonds that come into our voting here in the county, we're just all over voting for any type of tax levies that increase paying teachers, budgets for increasing academic excellence in the schools. And it also really, in my heart, sort of stirs up that conversation I have that nothing is merely labeled. You know, that once you label something, that doesn't mean that forever it's going to be like that, because these children in this particular school district have basically changed that paradigm or that stereotype that says poor children can't excel. So I just want to rejoice in their efforts, make dedications and lots of prayers for their continuing to succeed, and that may all children everywhere be able to have the conducive circumstances to be able to become wise and contributing members of society, and that these militant groups like Boko Haram that have got this wrong view, deluded view, may they be able to be disbanded and taken care of in a way that they can either be disarmed and placed in situations where they will not harm societies, and may those cultures really be educated in the best way to serve them.